Creatures that have hidden in the dark for centuries, cursed with immortality, and dependent on human blood to survive. Vampires. We think we only see them in Hollywood movies, Dracula novels, or fantasy series, don't we? Popular culture has always introduced them to us with their elegant capes, charismatic demeanor, and luxurious castles. But what if I told you that behind this terrifying legend lie undeniable historical facts, official government reports, shocking archaeological discoveries, and medical cases that still baffle the scientific world? Did people living in ancient times lock their doors and hang garlic on their windows just because they had vivid imaginations, or were they genuinely scared to death of something hunting in the dead of night? Today, we are pulling back the curtain on humanity's oldest and deepest nightmare. Is the existence of vampires truly just a myth, or is it history's best-kept secret? If you're ready, we are embarking on a long and chilling journey into the dark. Let's begin our story with an official archaeological excavation carried out not too long ago in the village of Pien, Poland. Scientists from Nicholas Copernicus University in Torunia were working in an unnamed 17th-century cemetery in this village when they discovered something shocking among the bones. The skeleton, which belonged to a young woman, had been buried in a highly unusual manner. A sharp sickle was placed right across her neck. The purpose of this sickle was crystal clear. If the woman were to wake up from the dead and try to rise from her grave, the blade would cut her throat right then and there. Furthermore, a large padlock was fastened to the big toe of her left foot. This padlock symbolized a journey with no return, in other words, death itself. The terrifying part is that this grave found by the Nicholas Copernicus University team was neither the first nor the last. All across Europe, from Czechia to Bulgaria, from Italy to England, hundreds of similar vampire graves have been unearthed. Massive bricks were stuffed into the mouths of some skeletons to prevent them from rising and biting anyone or consuming the earth. Others had half-meter-long iron stakes driven through their hearts. Some even had their heads completely severed and placed between their legs. At this point, we need to stop and think. Our ancestors were scared to death of something. To them, these people were not just deceased mortals. Killing them hadn't been enough. They resorted to these bizarre and brutal methods to prevent them from returning and to trap them in the ground. So, what was at the root of this profound fear that terrified an entire continent and drove people to desecrate graveyards in the dead of night? No matter who you ask today, the first name that comes to mind when you say vampire is undoubtedly Count Dracula. However, behind the caped Count character of cinema lies one of the bloodiest pages in history. The man who inspired Bram Stoker's famous 1897 novel was Vlad III, Prince of Wallachia, who lived in the 15th century, better known to us from history books as Vlad the Impaler. Vlad was a ruler notorious for his cruelty, punishing enemies, criminals, and sometimes even his own people by impaling them on stakes. German and Slavic manuscripts from his time contain blood-curdling details. According to these documents, Vlad took great pleasure in dining in his castle garden surrounded by people impaled on stakes. Rumors of the time even claimed that he had the blood of his victims collected in chalices to dip his bread into it. This is how history's most famous vampire figure was built upon a real, ruthless, and bloody historical persona. Yet, the vampire hysteria was not confined to Romania or Vlad alone. Especially in the 18th century, a vampire epidemic broke out in Eastern European villages, shifting from a whispered peasant legend into a matter of state. There were so many reports of individuals like Arnold Paole and Peter Plagajewicz rising from their graves to kill people that the Austrian Empire had to dispatch military doctors and official investigators to the region. Bureaucratic reports officially classified as vampirism were drafted. An entire system of bureaucracy, medical professionals, and armies were mobilized to hunt down ghouls in graveyards. So, what do modern science and the medical world have to say about this hysteria? Scientists suggest that the people labeled as vampires and whose graves were desecrated were not monsters, but rather victims of rare, agonizing diseases that could not be diagnosed under the conditions of that era. The first and most notable of these is porphyria. This disease is a genetic disorder affecting the production of hemoglobin in the blood. The skin of porphyria patients is extremely sensitive to sunlight, meaning ultraviolet rays. Exposure to the sun causes agonizing, severe burns and deep wounds on their skin, forcing them to go out only at night. Furthermore, this condition causes the gums to recede and wear away, making the person's canine teeth appear much longer, sharper, and more menacing. Garlic, on the other hand, immensely worsens the symptoms and pain of these patients. Living at night, unable to go out in the sun, with elongated teeth, and avoiding garlic, sounds exactly like a vampire, doesn't it? Another trigger for widespread public hysteria was the rabies virus. Because their central nervous system is compromised, individuals with rabies develop an intense phobia of water, bright lights, and mirrors, known as hydrophobia. Muscle spasms cause their faces to contort into terrifying expressions, they become highly aggressive, and they exhibit a tendency to bite those around them. In those dark centuries when medical science was in its infancy, and microbes, viruses, or genetic disorders were completely unknown, it was an inevitable tragedy for villagers to label these helpless people as monsters or vampires, to fear them, and to bury them with stakes driven through their hearts. It appears that this centuries-old mystery of vampires is actually a massive jigsaw puzzle formed by ignorance, the fear of death, helpless diseases, and ruthless historical figures like Vlad III. Humanity simply chose to embody every incomprehensible disease and evil into a dark myth. Perhaps real vampires didn't wear black capes and fly around transforming into bats, they were just helpless human beings longing for daylight, suffering in pain, and cast out by society as monsters. Or, who knows? Maybe these scientific explanations are just to put our minds at ease, and real vampires are still among us, lurking and living in the shadows of the night. What do you think about this? Do you believe there is still a mystical, supernatural power behind vampire legends that science cannot explain? Or is it all a dark trick of the human mind? Share your thoughts with me in the comments, I'll be reading every single one. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit the like button, and subscribe to my channel and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of these deep, mysterious topics. See you in the next dark secret. Take care of yourselves, and stay away from the dark.